Good morning. So it is time for us to wind up architecture without touching and appreciating with all respects the nature, the God-given nature, the five elements, the Panchabhutas. So from that nature, Nature, that Ture has come to architecture also. Architecture has taken sustainably, even copied nature to a great extent. Nature has that much abundant, enormous treasure of architectural principles for its stability, for its growth, and for its existence. Just take coconut shell. Coconut shell. Okay. There are coconut shell roofs. A shell roof, as I told you, the appropriate technology. One of the roofing system is the coconut shell roof. It's very difficult if you just keep the coconut shell just like almost a dome. It is not a spherical. Some coconut shells may be a hemispherical dome if you break into two. Some may not be. It may be a segment of a shell or parabolic shell, to be more precise. If you just keep that on the floor, and it is very difficult for you to break that shell by applying normal forces. You might apply very extraordinary force to break that into. If you just keep it on the floor by the circular base on the floor. Similarly, the eggshell, shell of an egg, white egg, shell. Then the shell of a snail, shell of a snail. The upper shell of a tortoise, very hard. Then the shell of a groundnut, just see any nut for that. You have so many nuts. They are safely kept inside shell of different shapes. Just to see the shell of a groundnut, see the shell of badam, shell of cashew. All of them are varied in forms and shapes. They are different. All nature's gift. So many structures have been evolved simulating this analogy. These identical shells have been made architecturally with very high architectural value. You have spherical domes. Domes can be spherical. You have conical domes. Whenever you have a dome, you have a lantern over it. A lantern. Lot of examples you can tell. Lime. Actually, you get the lime from the limestone from the sea. Natural lime. That is in a shell. If you just see the shell, it will be very beautiful. There will be lot of shell-like materials people collect from the shores of a beach. It comes from the sea. And those shells have their own stability against external forces, external loads. Another type of plate is folded plate. Folded plate is an architectural element. So many industrial buildings, so many museums, exhibition halls, their roofing system is a folded plate. That means the plate, I told you yesterday, that it is flat in the case of steel plates. But by using formwork, you can make plates zigzag, V-shaped, or you can have a V, then a trough, then a V, then again a trough, then a V. Usually the galvanized iron roofing sheets nowadays, and we are told trusses yesterday, those trusses are covered with roofing sheets, GI sheets, or oxidized sheets with different colors, fascinating colors. They give an action of a folded plate. The advantage of folded plate is that just to have a piece of paper, just to try a piece of paper, you hold a piece of paper in your hand, piece of paper, A4 paper, for example, you hold it. If you hold it like this, it will hog. If you hold only in one hand and the paper is like this, you can very well see that that paper hogs. It will not be horizontal. You just take that paper, fold it. First you fold it, again fold, like that four or five times. Then you'll get a series of V-shaped folds. Series of V-shaped fold. You can do it. You can check. Keep again the same thing, same paper, nothing, only the pattern is changed. Instead of a flat A4 paper, you have made it a folded A4 paper. You just hold it in one hand, just keep it will not hop. So it gains a stiffness. So the folded plates induces a stiffness to the structural element. First, the folded plate was flexible. I mean, not the folded paper, folded plate, sorry, very sorry. This is a paper, the A4 paper. The A4 paper, which is very thin. Even though it's a plate, it is very thin, so it is flexible. It hops, it deflects, it deforms. But when you just fold it longitudinally, fold it and keep it, it attains a stiffness. This plate, folded plates, use a stiffness to the element and it becomes structurally versatile. And it will have a very appealing architectural form. Not only that, during rainy season, that V shape will automatically drain off whatever water comes. It will act as a channel and drain out the water to the ground over the roof. So folded plate is a very uh, attractive, very useful structural element used in architecture too. Folded plates. You just take the example of a tree. Suppose you have a branch this side, a corresponding branch will be there on the other side. It balances. A duality at the same time for safeguarding the tree's main stem, the vertical stem, that is called the load bearing structure. That load bearing structure, the vertical column or the pillar, whatever you call, or the post, will have branches on either of its sides or around its periphery to balance the load. Either it will have branches on all over its sides or it will not have branches, just like a coconut tree or just like a palm or an arecanut tree. They just have a single stem going straight without any branches. And at the top of it, to protect the stem, you have a bunch of leaves with either the coconut or the arecanut, whatever it may, it will be there. So that is symmetrical, just like this, just like a symmetrical piece. That will, if you just take, you can almost sketch it as a sphere. You just cover, it is just a sphere spreading in all the directions, just like a lotus. And you see in the palm tree, you can very well see the folded plates there. So the coconut tree, whenever it is taller and taller, its diameter will increase to safeguard against overturning, safeguard against collapse. In the palm tree, as well as in the coconut tree, you can see a single stem growing up with a symmetrical head over it to safeguard the stem from rain entry, at the same time giving fruits and rendering a good architectural appeal and resisting the wind forces also. Wind forces, yielding to the wind force, but when the wind is over. So coconut tree, palm tree, and arecanut tree. If you see, the arecanut tree, the diameter will be very, very small compared to the coconut and palm tree. So it will act as a flexible member. Arecanut, the stem of an arecanut tree, if you see, it will be just a flexible thing. It will go. Usually, people climb one arecanut tree and go to the arecanut tree not by coming down and climbing up. They just make this bend and touch the other arecanut tree and plug the arecanut. So that is a flexible. So there are two terms now coming. One is the rigid materials and another is the flexible materials. So the A4 paper was, initially it was a flexible material. The moment you give a shape factor or giving a particular shape, that became rigid. Whenever a material is having more stiffness, it is called rigid. Whenever the stiffness is less or stiffness is almost zero, it is called flexible. So by changing the shape of the material, a flexible material can be made rigid, either by changing its size or shape. Materials will have different flexibility values and different stiffness values. And shape plays a very important role in modifying the stiffness of a material. In architecture, the stiffness is made use of by giving different shapes for the same material. So we will continue in the next class. Thank you. God bless.